Hello and welcome to the Running on Carbs podcast. I am your host, Coach Val, and I welcome you to episode number 21 of the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, and that is plant-based essential kitchen tools. And I noticed when I became plant-based 7 years ago that I had to find a whole new set of tools for my kitchen to really make the recipes and things that I was finding online, for example. And when I did gather just those few essentials, then my life got so much easier and my recipes got so much better. And I realized that there was a whole new world of culinary cuisine open to me if I had the right tools to make the food. So today I'm going to share with you just four of my top favorite items that I use on a very regular basis that and a number of people use in their plant-based kitchens also. But I do want to let you know that there are five more that I am not covering in the podcast today. But if you would like to get all nine of the essential items, you can download the list of them with an explanation and how to use them and what they are by going to the show notes. And there is a link there that you can go to the download and download all nine of the plant based kitchen tool essentials. So jump over to the show notes, download them all as soon as you are ready. Otherwise, just listen to these four and then download them at the end of the show. But I want you to know that they are there and ready for you to download. My other reminder is to let you know that we do have the August Apple Podcast review contest going still. So we are still in the month of August. You can go to the Apple Podcast app and write a review of the show. And when you write a review and you give it 5 stars, or I think it's 5 stars, then you can be entered to win an 8-week customized training plan that I will write exactly customized to you and whatever it is you are doing right now in your training. So if you want to run a 5K, an 8-week plan is absolutely perfect for that. If you want to build endurance and maybe have a good base building plan, 8 weeks is a great time to build some base between some different plans that you have going. So anyway, jump over there and write a review. I really appreciate it, and it really helps the show grow because that is how Apple Podcast looks at shows and ranks them and pushes them out so that other people can find the show. And so if there are other plant-based runners out there who really need this information or might be thinking of going plant-based, then this is the show that we really want them to hear, because I'm all about helping people move to a plant-based diet or, really accentuate what they're doing already and just improve on what they're doing. And so I really want to be able to get the show out to them, and hopefully you feel the same way. And so writing a review will help me quite a lot, and we can continue to grow our Running on Carbs family. Thank you for doing that. So since the last episode, which you may or may not have listened to, I talked about half marathon training. And I talked about that because I was kind of doing a little research for myself and trying to decide if I am ready to do a half marathon training plan. You may or may not know, if you've been listening to the show very long or not, I had a serious injury last year, had a femoral neck stress fracture in July of 2023. And so it's been just over a year now since that was diagnosed, and I've been healing. So I've been back to running for about 4 months or so and doing really well and building up the mileage, feeling good, feeling strong. I went through a lot of rehab before I was cleared to run. I actually had an extra 3 months in there where I was not running. I was supposed to be cleared to run at the end of the year in December. and they found some extra, like, different swelling in a different part of my hip. And so the doctor said, maybe just give it another 3 months. We don't know what that's from. Could be nothing. Stress fracture's healing, but now you've got this other thing. So just give it some extra time. So I did. So I had an extra 3 months of just PT, walking, no high impact activity. So talk about taking it slow and really allowing my body to heal, and slowly, slowly, slowly progressing. So I've been doing that, and now I'm kind of itching to get out there and start really training again. So I've been running 3 days a week since mid-April. I started with a run walk plan, and then I progressed to, all running, and I've slowly upped my miles. So I'm doing about 14 miles a week right now. And I've been doing that 14 miles um, for a month. And my long run is 7 miles, and it's feeling comfortable. So I'm feeling good. Well, comfortable is relative because yesterday's run was not comfortable. It was really hot. And today it's really humid. So, I mean, dealing with heat and humidity, that's just not comfortable. So that definitely has me sort of, second guessing whether or not I want to start a half marathon training plan in the middle of heat and humidity. But on the other hand, I've been contemplating and thinking that I can start that half marathon plan without putting any pressure on myself. And I think this is key. So if you also are new to running, newer to running, or if you have some reason that you're only contemplating a longer race training plan and you're not quite sure, something to consider is maybe setting that goal out in the future, but just holding it loosely. That's what I call it. So I've got an idea of a couple of races that I can do in early November. However, I'm not paying for anything. Boy, did I learn my lesson when I got injured that I lost so much money on race fees that I had signed up for and was ready to run and super excited about. And I mean, who could have foreseen something like that? And I think that's the key, is that you just don't know if you're going to get injured. So I I just have learned my lesson. I'm not buying race plans a year out anymore, unless it's a 5K. I do sign up for the Carlsbad 5,000 every year, the day after the race, because I just love it. And I figured I can most likely walk that if I needed to, but I just love to participate in that event. So I always sign up for that one. But anything longer than a 5K, I'm not signing up for until I know I'm actually going to start it and run it. So for this half marathon that I'm thinking about in November, maybe December, there's there's one I have in mind, that is not in my area, so I'd have to drive to it. And that's like my A goal. And then there's 2 more. There's one that same weekend, so if I decide I don't wanna drive really far, then I can do one locally. So there's option A, or I guess that would be option B. Option A is drive, option B is don't drive, but same weekend, and option C is the following weekend, there is another half marathon that I could choose from. I don't prefer that one though, because that race has a lot of sidewalk running. And I learned many, many years ago to stay off sidewalks as much as possible when it comes to running. They're just, I mean, concrete is the hardest surface that you can even run on. And so if asphalt and dirt is causing pain or injuries, concrete is going to just exasperate everything. So I try to stay off of concrete. So that particular race in mid-November is, I think it's like 90% concrete. And so not my top choice, but it's an alternative. It's one race. I might be able to do that. And then option D, if I really want some other option, if November just doesn't work, there's one more half marathon locally in December that I could also do. So if I find that I need extra time during my training, if I start to have any niggles or anything, if things just aren't feeling good, um, It is also fall and winter. Sometimes people get colds and sick. I don't get a lot of colds, but you never know, right? It's just like injuries. You don't know if you're going to get germs. So, anyway, there's the December one that is a last ditch option. Um, if I still want to do a half marathon this year, um, then there's some options. So, anyway, since I have so many options, I figured I should just go ahead and go for it. And that's what I wanted to share with you is if you have an idea of something you want to do, but you have some reservations, get started. Put the plan in place, start your plan, commit to your plan as if you really are doing it, but know that if there is a reason, a real true reason, not because you want to sleep in, like a real true reason, like an injury or an illness, or you have to take care of work issues that come up that simply, make you travel all over the place or something, and you simply can't do some, meet your goals, then you can let that go and have your option BCD in place. But start training for it. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start training. As a matter of fact, today was my day one of training technically, but my plan started on a Sunday, and Sunday is my cross training day. So I just cross trained and I didn't run. So I never count. It's so funny, even though my plans, even the ones that I write, sometimes will start with a cross training day. I never count that as day one. I always count the first running day as day one. And so tomorrow would be day one running day. And so instead of like going through all of my training here on the podcast, I'm sure I'll give you some updates and things, but I decided to bring back my personal blog. And that is really where all of this started, was with my personal blog that I started writing when I was training for my first full marathon. So I ran the Surf City full marathon in February 2023. And all of my training, I blogged nearly every single day, but I accounted for every day of my training during that blog. So if you're interested, you can go back and read bits and pieces or start the whole thing over if you want to see, how the training plan goes for someone training for their first marathon. I wrote the every day, filled in, whether I had a great run, bad run. I had a couple very interesting runs in there, some very emotional runs that I did blog about and share about as well. But my whole story is there. And I thought that would be such a great thing for me to document now, is my first half marathon back after injury. Because as much as I would love to think that it's going to go perfect and be all sunshine and rainbows, and I'm going to be like one of those runners you see on the front of the magazines that look like they're, running at top speed and they're perfectly, not out of breath. I love that. I wish I could be those runners, where your leg is like up at like 90 degrees and you're just like running along. Yeah, I don't look like that. But I do love to run. So I want to share the story of what it takes to return to running and to return to endurance running, actual half marathon distance after a serious injury, and what that takes. So I'm going to be sharing my whole story over there on the blog. I put the link to the blog in the show notes. So if you're interested, you are welcome to jump over there and follow along and see how it goes. I honestly have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm going to do my best because I would really love to get back to running half marathons. All right. So with that, let us get started with the actual meat of the episode. Oh, that's terrible. It's not meat. Let's see. Well, let's get started with the Beyond Meat episode. Okay. So plant-based kitchen tools essentials. My number one plant-based kitchen tool essential is, drumroll, the Instant Pot. 100% the Instant Pot. I don't know how I survived without an Instant Pot. I mean, even before I was, plant-based, but boy, this was one of the first things that I picked up when I went plant-based because I was reading so many articles and recipes and things that you can make in an Instant Pot, and if you are a busy person, this is a lifesaver. If you don't buy an Instant Pot for any other reason except for to make beans in it, you're gonna get your money's worth out of it. An Instant Pot is not very expensive. I think I bought one for my son recently for less than $100 and sent it over to him because he and his girlfriend, I figured, could use that, and they actually do use it. And they're not big cooks either, but they do use it. In my opinion, though, no kitchen should be without one. It's just, like, so useful. So I make bean dishes in it, of every sort and every kind. There's a ton of recipes, out there, especially, like, on Pinterest, tons of vegan bean recipes and, vegan Instant Pot recipes that you can find, and it's super simple to use. I mean, you push a couple buttons, you turn it on. Basically, an Instant Pot is an electronic or an electric pressure cooker, and I used to use a pressure cooker on the stove. When my son was a baby, I used to make his, baby food, and I would use an actual, like, stovetop pressure cooker for that. That thing made me so nervous. It never exploded. I never had any issues, but it was complicated, and you had to really watch the temperature. I had a gas stove, so it got really hot, and this is so much better. It's like you put the lid on, you lock it down, you hit a couple buttons, you walk away, it beeps at you and tells you when it's done. I mean, that's my kind of cooking right there. And if you're a busy professional and runner, that's probably your kind of cooking too. So, I mean, I make things in there like these bean dishes with soy curls. They're so delicious. You just dump everything in. Same thing, push some buttons, set it, it goes off, it's done. It's so helpful also for meal planning and prepping for the week because you can make a large amount. I have a 6 quart, and a 6 quart for even 2 people up to 4 people in a family is probably the ideal size. If you really want to make large batches, they do have an 8 quart size Instant Pot, but you're probably going to have to resize a lot of the recipes that you see online because it's going to be so big and it might change the cooking times because you're going to have to let it come to pressure. You just have more space in the pot. So I guess that's physics, right? So if you get the 6 quart, though, most of the recipes online are written for a 6 quart pot. But either way, whatever you prefer, it's a great tool. Um, all right, so what else can I do in the Instant Pot? So one of my favorite things to make in the Instant Pot that I do on a regular basis is I make beets. So fresh red beets. I get them at the grocery store, and sometimes these beets are massive, like I don't know, 5, 6 inches across. They're huge, and I mean, they would take me a million years to cook them in the oven, but I'm not a big fan of beets in the oven. I've tried that, but steamed beets are really, really good, and the Instant Pot is so perfect for that. You just kind of wash them off and toss them in the pot with put a little bit of water in the bottom, put a little trivet so that the beets aren't sitting in the water, they're above, so you're steaming them, and, just kinda set it for however big they are. So if you get those massive beets, those can take maybe 30, 40 minutes, those big, huge ones. But usually I get like a medium-sized beet and I put them in for about 20, 22 minutes, something like that. And when they come out, then you peel them. So they're way less messy. I just use some like rubber gloves, not like dishwashing gloves, but like latex gloves. And I just keep those around in the kitchen for things like this. Put those little gloves on, your hands don't even get stained, and you just peel the skin off, chop them up, You're good to go for the week with your beets. So if you like beets, that's a really super simple, easy way to make them. Potatoes also are really good in the Instant Pot. If you like squash of any kind, the Instant Pot is absolutely the way to make squash because, again, in the oven, it takes a long time. If it is summertime, like it is here right now as I'm recording this podcast, it's humid and hot, and there's no way I'm going to turn on my oven for an hour in the kitchen to make squash. Nope. So if you like summer squash, things like that, so perfect in the Instant Pot. I just buy a smaller size spaghetti squash and I do the same thing, trivet, a little bit of water in the bottom, and I just wash off the squash and I put the whole thing in, like whole, into the Instant Pot. As long as it's small enough to fit, it's gonna cook up just fine. So I put it all in there, lock it down, turn it on. Now that might take a little bit longer because it is whole, so it's gotta cook through the skin. Obviously, if you feel like cutting it and then de-seeding it before you cook it, it'll take less time. But if you don't care and you have plenty of time, toss the whole sucker in there and just turn it on. So that's what I do. And when it comes out, you just got to take it out really carefully because it's really hot. Take it out, let it rest until you can handle it. And then you can cut it open, de-seed it, and you've got squash. So simple. So these are some real good time-saving hacks for you to make quick meals. And also it preps a lot of food. So again, if you are meal prepping, this is the way to go. And this way you get squash and your potatoes or anything, hard vegetables like that that are usually very time consuming to cook, especially on a weekday when you're really busy and or maybe you got home late at night. So this is the way to go. Just cook up your squash on the weekend, put it in the fridge, and then you have it for dishing out throughout the week. One last thing on the Instant Pot is I have an air fryer lid for my Instant Pot. So if you love air frying also, you can do that with your Instant Pot. Instant Pot themselves makes an air fryer lid that you can purchase. And I haven't used that one. I actually bought a different brand by Mealthy, Mealthy. I didn't look to see if they still make it, but you can look them up and see if they do. If I think about it, I will look it up before I post the show notes. And if I see a link, I'll put the link to the Milthy lid in the show notes also. But I do know that Instant Pot does make a air fryer lid for the Instant Pot. So either way, you can get one. And what it is, it's just it fits on the metal pot that you will have to use the stainless pot for this one. So it sits on the stainless pot on the Instant Pot container, the outside. You just don't plug in the Instant Pot. Instead, you plug in the lid and it works like an air fryer. So you just turn it on, you set your temperature, and then you can air fry anything in your little basket in the Instant Pot. So again, it's nice because now you don't have another large appliance because I think like a decent sized air fryer and an Instant Pot, if you had both of them, they're both about the same size. So that takes up a lot of space. And I personally have a very tight kitchen, so it's not a lot of storage space for large or even medium-sized appliances. So for me, space saving is really important, which is why having the lid for the Instant Pot is way better than having two appliances. All right, so there is our Instant Pot. Let's go on to number 2, which would be a high-speed blender. So key. Okay, so this is like the foundation of so many recipes. If you are looking online, you probably notice that there are a lot of recipes that use raw cashews. Raw cashews are a great foundational ingredient for sauces and baking, all sorts of things. If you like to make vegan cheesecake, your cashews are going to be key to that. There's just so many things that you need a high speed blender for. And personally, I again need the space saving tool. So I use a Ninja. And by the way, I get no money from any of this. This is just what I use. So I'm sharing with you some brands that I'm familiar with. But I use a Ninja um, high speed blender, and it has a number of different attachments. So it has your traditional blender um, container, like a pitcher, and that's great for all sorts of, liquidy things. So if you like smoothies, things like that, you're going to use your pitcher. Um, then it also has um, what is it called? It's uh, another food processor. Sorry, that was just humidity brain. Let's call it humidity brain. Okay, so it's a food processor cup that you attach to the base of the blender. And with that, you can do this is really helpful for things like mixing up thicker ingredients. Like, for instance, if you want to make a bean patty, like a black bean patty or something like that, or you want to make, no meat meatballs or like falafels or anything that has thick ingredients, even cookie dough. You can cook in or you can blend in here anything that you would use a food processor for, um, blending up like vegetables and chopping those up, whatever. So anyway, it's just an attachment that goes on the base, and then it works like a food processor. And then there's a couple of cups that are great for small amounts of sauces that you just need to blend up, um, dressings, small smoothies. I don't know anybody that makes a smoothie that actually fits in one of those cups because you have so many vegetables and fruits and things and liquid that by the time you put all that in there, when you blend it, it might be small enough to fit in that cup, but all the original ingredients are still big and they don't fit in that cup. So I don't know, maybe you just want to mix up some protein powder. Great tool. So a high speed blender is absolutely imperative to use. What I love using my high speed blender for is mixing up beans that are soaked in raw. So, again, like cashews that we talked about earlier, so there'd be a nut, but also lentils. So, I have a recipe that I am working on right now. I'm combining two recipes that I like to use, and I'm using similar ingredients and making a new one. So, I love making chickpea waffles, but I make chickpea waffles using actual chickpea flour. And then I've got another recipe that I make with red lentils. So you take the red lentils and you just soak them so that they're soft, like overnight or for several hours in the fridge. Start them in the morning, and in the evening before dinner, they should be soaked and ready. So what I do with those is I make little pancakes normally. So you blend them up with water and some seasoning, and then you make little pancakes with the red lentils. And because the lentils are soaked, when you blend them in the high speed blender, it makes like a pancake consistency batter. So what I've decided to do that I'm going to try out hopefully tonight, if my lentils are ready, is I'm going to blend up the lentils in the same way, but I'm going to add the baking powder and seasoning, and I'm going to make waffles out of that instead of pancakes. And I think it'll work. Normally, like I said, I use the flour. My only uncertainty is the ratios. I'm not sure about the ratios. So I'm going to have to play with that a little bit. Because, of course, you have to get the batter to the right consistency to make a waffle. And waffle batter and pancake batter is very different. So anyway, I'm going to be working on that, see how that goes. I'll put it on Instagram and let you know how it goes. So anyway, cannot be without a high-speed blender. All right, number 3. This is one of my favorites. I use it every day. I use a milk frother. I know, sounds super exciting, but you know what? This is like kind of bougie in a way. Some people are like, well, what do you need a milk frother for, and why is that important? Um, Number one, I use the milk frother like a little mini blender. So a milk frother can be used not only just to like make your almond milk more fluffy and your coffee more enjoyable, but if you put protein powder and supplements or cacao powder in your coffee, or like I make a chicory root tea in the evenings, um, I just use that as a little blender and it makes it all whipped up and it's like a dessert. So my coffee in the morning and my tea at night are like little desserts on each end of my day. And I can't do it without my milk frother. So I bought this little milk frother that I've bought like 3 of them because I keep burning out the motor on them. So they last really well for a little bit. It's battery powered and I'm gonna keep using it, and I am definitely going to keep it around because it's great to travel with. It's so small, and so I always travel with my little milk frother just like I travel with my toaster. However, for day-to-day use, I bought this new hand mixer, um, that has a milk frother attachment, and so I'm trying that out. It's not quite as good as my little battery-powered one, but I think it's gonna do the job, and because it plugs in, it's gonna last longer. The battery's gonna, or not the battery, but the motor will last longer because it's plugged in rather than just going through batteries like crazy, because I use it every day. So, it's an immersion blender really is what the new one is that plugs in, and it's got a couple of different attachments. It's got like a whisk attachment, which could be great for recipes and things. And then it's got an immersion blender blade mixer, which is great again for sauces and things. So if you don't want to drag out your whole blender and you just want to do something small, maybe that doesn't have raw nuts or soaked beans or something in it, like a maybe just a dressing, something like that, and you just need to mix it up. Super simple, great to have on hand. But then it's also got the milk frother attachment, which is great as a little mini blender for your protein powders and things like that, and supplement powders. So milk frother is definitely number 3, and I use it every single day. All right, last one. Ta-da! The Belgian waffle maker. Belgian waffle maker. And why is this a necessity in a household? Some people might wonder that. So, Belgian waffle maker is awesome because you can make more than just sweet breakfast waffles with them. And waffles are a great, well, let's see, protein waffles are a great ingredient and staple to a plant based diet. So, like I was talking earlier about making the chickpea waffles, this is what I use. I use a Belgian waffle maker to make the chickpea waffles. And I I prefer the Belgian waffle maker because it makes the perfect size and you don't have to make a whole bunch of them. And they just, when you have like a little square waffle maker, they just don't have the same, I don't know, texture, fluffiness, that a Belgian waffle has. My god, I cannot say waffle. Belgian waffle. So, when you make a Belgian waffle, you can add all sorts of different spices and things in to make it a savory waffle, or if you want breakfast waffles, more power to you. I love to make buckwheat waffles in here, which are amen, fantastic. I love buckwheat. Another great high protein grain, by the way. So if you haven't tried buckwheat, then absolutely put that into your next shopping list and try some buckwheat waffles. They're so good and super simple. Um, but it's so versatile. That's why I highly recommend it. Um, so again, making bean waffles basically is what they are. So garbanzo bean waffles. I'm going to make some lentil waffles. They're high in protein, whole food in the case of the lentils, because the lentils are literally soaked lentils that have been softened up that I'm going to blend with water and some baking powder and seasonings. And that's a whole food. There's nothing else in it. Super simple, basic, but high protein, low carb, lots of good nutrients in there. I also make for breakfast time a pumpkin spice waffle. Those are fantastic. They have bananas, pumpkin pie spice seasoning, um, super yummy. Um, but they also freeze really well. So when you, again, going back to meal prepping for the week, waffles are so easy. I've been eating them all last week, which is why they're really top of my mind right now. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna make some more this week, but I'm just gonna use a different bean. So super versatile. But what you can do with a Belgian waffle. So here's my recipe that I love to make Belgian waffles with for savory waffles. This is a dinner waffle. So you have your bean waffle, whichever bean you want, and you saute up some vegetables. If you need to save time, you can just use frozen vegetables and steam them or something. Otherwise, you can make up some vegetables over the weekend for the week, and then you just divvy them out onto your waffle. And then you add a protein source. So that could be, in my case, I was using soy curls that I would rehydrate in some vegetable broth. Or you could use tofu. I've absolutely used tofu many, many times. Um, or you could use, what else? Some TVP, textured vegetable protein, if you want to mix that in with some seasonings. So, I mean, really, the sky is the limit when it comes to these waffles. You just top them with any sort of dinner food that you would want, your veggies, your proteins. And so you get the extra protein and nutrients from the beans in the waffle. And then you add, more on top. So it's a great way to get in some more protein into your diet in a whole food way. Um, and then when you are done, you just freeze whatever is left over. So you can put some in the fridge for immediate use, and then you just freeze them in storage bags in the freezer. And when you're ready to make them, just take them out and you just pop them in the toaster, just like you would any other frozen waffle. Pop them in the toaster, just kind of heat them back up again. Careful not to burn them because they are sensitive. Um, and then, boom, you got dinner. So super easy meal prep. Hope that was helpful. I would love to hear if you make any of these like waffles, um, and I want to know what you put on top of them. So let me know what you do, how you make them, and then I will post up on Instagram whether I'm successful or not when it comes to my lentil waffles. Really hoping they come out well. I'm have high hopes. I just got to get that texture right. So anyway, hopefully I get the texture right. I'll post up on Instagram so you can jump over there and see if I succeeded or not. But somehow I'll make it work. Worst case scenario, I'll make pancakes. They're not the ideal. They don't have the same texture. They're not as, crunchy, fluffy like a waffle, but you know, it'll work, I suppose. All right, everybody. I hope that you got something out of today's episode. Don't forget, go and download all 9 of the kitchen plant-based tools that I've got on a download. They're in the show notes with the link. Go check it out. Hopefully you find some use and value out of this. And I will see you in episode number 22. In the meantime, go and run your best life on carbs. I'm Coach Val. I will see you next time.